Today's workshop showcases three initiatives that exemplify the power of the recovery community's imagination, creativity, and hard work combined with empathy and compassion. In a world where those struggling with mental health challenges and addiction are often marginalized and stigmatized, these organizations offer a beacon of hope. They stand in contrast to mainstream medical institutions that frequently lack adequate resources, trained personnel, and the infrastructure to effectively address addiction and mental health issues. Moreover, these initiatives provide an alternative to the healthcare system, often constrained by insurance regulations that prioritize brief encounters over comprehensive treatment, and where medication is typically covered while essential psychotherapy and other basic needs are not. They also offer more accessible options compared to prohibitively expensive private rehabilitation centers. So we are proud to feature these not-for-profit charitable organizations that were established by the recovery community for those in need. Their work demonstrates what's possible when people come together with a shared mission of support and healing. Through these presentations, we hope to inspire and inform you about the innovative approaches being taken to address complex challenges of addiction and mental health recovery. So we have three initiatives. We have Haley with us from the Portland Alano Club, Ken from Recovery Cafes, the Recovery Cafe Network, and David from the Life Rooms in Liverpool. So we're going to kick it off with Haley, and we're so happy to have you with us, Haley. I love the Alano Club in Portland. If you ever go to Portland, make it the first place you stop because you get a beautiful welcome. It's an incredible environment, just a beautiful, amazing building that they have there. But you can look it up online. You can see, and they're incredibly welcoming and offer just a slew of services. Amazing place. So I'm going to leave it to Haley. Thank you, Haley, for joining us. And we'll do a 15-minute presentation from Haley. Thank you, Haley. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everyone, so much for having me today. I did not practice this presentation, and I was a little nervous that it was 15 minutes, but then I started taking notes about everything that the Portland Alano Club does, and I was like, it's only 15 minutes. That's not enough. As Patrick said, the Portland Alano Club is a really special place. I have been an attendee and a member there for years, and I just started working there part-time as the Recovery Toolkit Series coordinator. I'm not sure if the name Alano Club is familiar to people, if that's an international thing. While I am from the West Coast, I went away to get sober. So I went to the Midwest, and my experience of Alano clubs was they were fabulous hubs of 12-step recovery, but they were falling down. They smelled like cigarettes and urine, and they were very underfunded and often in abandoned, forgotten about buildings in various cities. And so when I came home to Portland and I first went to the Portland Alano Club, it's in this beautiful mansion in Northwest Portland. And it's like, there's a full staff that's working there all the time. And there's probably 12 or 13 different rooms where something is happening at any given moment. And I was just amazed, and I was like, who the hell is paying for this place? But I think that just goes to show that Portland as a city is, we really care about recovery, and we really care about making it a lovely place. And my favorite thing about the Portland Alano Club is that, as Patrick said, like, while there is a foundation of 12-step recovery, and there are AA, NA, MA, et cetera, meetings happening throughout the day, every day, it also really branches out, and it explores different aspects of recovery and different types of groups. So throughout the day, the Alano Club has AA meetings, NA meetings, SMART recovery meetings, recovery Dharma meetings, PIR, which is psychedelics in recovery, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. There's CODA meetings there. There's Adult Children of Alcoholics meetings. We just launched a Wellbriety group in the Portland Alano Club, which is a natives in recovery. We do a recovery yoga class 2 or 3 times a week. We have Sounds of Recovery, which is a musician's sort of creative making music while in recovery. So those are meetings that are happening like throughout the week, every week. So it really plays upon a virtue of recovery that's really important to me, which is humility, and the humility to accept that like the thing that worked to get me sober is not necessarily the exact thing that will work to get everyone sober. So it's a lot of like subsidiaries and branches of recovery, and it's staying really open to different things working for different people. So the branch that I just took on is called the Recovery Toolkit series, and it's super fun. I get to really play with it. And there's different aspects of that. So there's the workshops, which at any given time, we have 2 or 3 workshops happening at the club at all times. And we actually bring in experts in said field to host workshops for people in recovery. So I'm trying to think right now we have mindfulness-based relapse prevention with a psychotherapist. So that is a 4-week series that's happening. We have a self-compassion series coming up with a local therapist here in Portland. We have a writing workshop. I actually personally did that one last year. It's really awesome. So there's a nonprofit writing organization that came in, and it's helping people in recovery write their story or write stories. And that's also held at the club. We have The Break, which is a monthly gathering of writers and artists. We have a really cool expungement clinic, which is that's a partnership with Portland Community College, and it's criminal record expungement and eviction expungement, name and gender marker changes. So these kind of things like I just did not find in my first AA meeting. And these are things that are really needed, especially in early recovery. Plates for the People is one of my personal favorites. This was started by a friend of mine. I just took it over. It is a cooking class held at a beautiful cooking school in Southeast Portland, and with a fabulous Portland twist, which is that it is taught by world-renowned chefs. So James Beard Award winner Gregory Gourdet taught a series. Fabulous award-winning Gabriel Rucker taught a series. We have Patrick McGee, who owns a restaurant group called Dame here in Portland. So it's not just your basic, it's like really amazing gourmet food. And it's everything from shopping list and budgeting to the hands-on experience of cooking the food in a group. So it's a social experience and a really tangible like life skill that many people did not have, again, coming into early recovery. So that's kind of everything with the Recovery Toolkit series that's coming to mind right now. We also have fabulous activities going on that are under the umbrella of the Portland Alano Club. One of them is Peak Recovery, which is a mountaineering, splitboarding, and climbing group. It actually takes people out into mountainous. I haven't done this one yet, but mountainous puts them really in the situation with trained guides. We have the Recovery Gym, which is a really special. We actually now have 2 locations, and these are state-of-the-art CrossFit gyms that host not only CrossFit, but there's personal training, high-intensity interval training, yoga, all kinds of exercise. And that, again, is with fully trained guides and personal trainers for people in recovery. We have Project Red under the umbrella of the Alano Club, which is a Narcan distribution and harm reduction program based here in Portland, started by a good friend of mine, Ellen. We have, I guess I'll talk about the Peer Connect program, which I have seen be wildly successful. And I think there's different versions of this program all over the world. But Portland Alano Club hosts their own. They have several different Peer Connect people who are staffed by the Alano Club. And this is different than a sponsor-sponsee relationship, and then it's really peer-oriented. So it's someone who identifies as also being in recovery, but it's really just a totally non-judgmental and empathetic person who's on your team. And I actually took the training for this position, and it's all about resources. So it's identifying like an individual's needs and what are the barriers between them and sobriety, long-term sobriety, and really personalizing recovery for this person, and then actually bringing them to some of these events through the club or other events that are happening in Portland, and just reintegrating them into society in like a really beautiful way. And again, super non-judgmental. Every peer I know that does that is so passionate about it and does a really excellent job of just helping people get back on their feet, whatever they need. Um, I'm trying to think. That is about all I had planned. Um, yeah, that's a lot. I know I talk really fast. I spit it all out. We got a lot going on. I would.
So now we're going to go over to Ken. Ken Goldstein is with the Recovery Cafe Network. They do amazing work. I met Ken at the Recovery Cafe in Santa Cruz, and he was very gracious. And I had a beautiful lunch there, met the staff, had a great time. And I even left with some Narcan. He showed me how to use it because it was on my way to San Francisco. And it's a very sad reality that a lot of people, it's good to have Narcan when you're traveling in these areas. It really is. And to know how to use it. There's a sad reality on the street that Ken will tell you all about. And then I went to the one in Seattle, their main headquarters, had a great tour. So, Ken, I'll leave it up to you now for 15 minutes. And thank you, Ken. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Great to see you again. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to see, like in Santa Cruz, you got to see, just a fresh group just trying to get something off the ground. And then you got to Seattle where you saw the original cafe, with hundreds of members. And it's you got both ends of this spectrum. And really, and folks, I mean, the network right now are 65 plus cafes across North America. And they are all different and unique, but there are certain commonalities and things. And 15 minutes is hardly enough time. So just briefly in terms of my background, I helped start I'm located in the San Jose, California area, and I helped start the Recovery Cafe here in San Jose. 2015 led it through about 2019. Then helped get the group in Santa Cruz started and have joined the network side to help encourage folks everywhere to learn about the Recovery Cafe model and get them started because I mean, it's helped me a lot. And I just find it amazing in terms of how it's helped our members. I'm going to pull out slides and so I remember to kind of cover everything, but it's a lot to cover. And in 15 minutes, I'm going to rush a little bit and hopefully you all have some questions at the end. And that's when we'll go through all that. So, but briefly, first, just what is a recovery cafe? So recovery cafes are healing communities for folks recovering from the traumas and results of trauma, like homelessness, all kinds of addictions, mental health challenges, uh, community violence, family violence, incarceration, etc. We don't, I mean, the list goes on, but I know today's focus is primarily substance use, but really we view recovery as not the substance or the homelessness or whatever else. We view it as trauma. That what we all have in common, regardless of what we're recovering from, is trauma. So that's really the heart of Recovery Cafe. It may come from substance abuse, homelessness, incarceration, et cetera, but or lead to that. But trauma is where we work. Um, and basically supporting recovery from anything that blocks our capacity to love, to live from love, to live our most best and most authentic selves. That's how we view recovery. Uh, so let's see. First cafe was the original Seattle cafe in 2004, so about 20 years ago, is where the model was developed. And the original founders, Ruby and Killian, still very much involved with the cafes in Seattle as well as the network day to day. They are our visionary leaders uh, who developed this model to help people maintain recovery, reduce relapse, and fulfill their potential. So maintain recovery. We're not a clinical program. We're not treatment. We are maintenance for every step thereafter. Once somebody has got that first step of stability, we are the maintenance of stability. Reducing relapse. We're honest about it. Some people relapse is often part of people's journey, but what we have found with the members of recovery cafes is they're putting more time between relapses. If or when they relapse, relapses are briefer, they're back to stability quicker and fulfill their potential. And this is what keeps me going in this work is the fulfilling of potential. Because I did a lot of other nonprofit services and stuff. I worked in homeless shelters and provided a lot of good services, but I never saw the transformation, never saw people's lives truly take off and people finding their potential within and blossoming into who they could be until I was involved with Recovery Cafe. Yeah. So currently, we're 65 plus across North America, one Canada, most US. Um, when we were getting set up, Patrick asked about beyond North America, because we do have a large international audience with us today, this evening, wherever you may be. We have not ventured far beyond the US plus one in Canada so far, but it's a conversation we recognize we need to start having again in earnest. And so if there's interest from folks, yeah, we can talk about it later. But that's our membership, so our stretch so far. So what is the model? Okay, so key to understand Recovery Cafe and how it might be different from some other things is membership. Membership, no barriers to membership. Membership is free. Anyone can be a member. But what membership means you belong. Means you're a part of something. You're not just showing up. It's not, and we recognize the need for everything. So I mean, I'm saying this is how we're different than a drop-in center, but it's not to say drop-in centers aren't important and needed in every city across I was going to say across the country, but across the globe. Drop-in centers are necessary, but what makes Recovery Cafes unique or somewhat different is that membership piece, that saying you belong, and that membership carries with it three simple agreements. The first being that you'll be drug and alcohol free while you're at the cafe, while you're in the community space. So we're not insisting on total abstinence. We're compatible with harm reduction. We're just asking that when you come in, you're clear, you can have a conversation with people, you can participate in your recovery and supporting your peers' recovery, and that you're not going to trigger somebody else. But what you do on your own time away from the cafe, that's up to you. Participate. You got to participate in the program. So you're just showing up for meals that's nice. You can be a guest a couple of times, but we want you to participate in your recovery circle and give back somehow. And that can be as simple as, at the end of the day, somebody's got to grab the mop, somebody has to take out the garbage, but it also, as members get some recovery capital, you learn their gifts, what they're able to do. It could be that they become circle facilitators, or they join the board of directors, or they lead meal preparation, a thousand ways to give back. And really the point of these agreements is, I mentioned briefly, I worked in the main shelter here in San Jose, and there it was rules. It was if you came in and we saw that you had a bottle of vodka under your coat, it was simply you're out, then somebody else gets that bed that night. Um, with Recovery Cafe, these simple agreements are opportunities for discussion. It's like, hey, let's go talk on the front step for a minute. You made the agreement not to, to be drug and alcohol free in this space. I can't have you triggering anybody. You understand that, but I care about you. I want to make sure you're okay. What other resources can I provide? Who can I call? Can I give you a bus pass? I mean, whatever else you may have to provide in terms of services or resources, and let that person know, I want to hear from you tomorrow. I want you to be able to come into the cafe tomorrow. So it's this opportunity for support and discussion. It's not as simple as you broke the rules, you're out, you failed. There's no failure. It's support. And that's, again, one of the main differences for me between Recovery Cafe and other nonprofit social service models that I was a part of that were punitive. This is non-punitive. Circles are a basic support group, peer run, as much as possible. Everything is peer run. And it's just, it can be a simple check-in. Hey, since we met last week, what have been your challenges? What have been your successes and joys? How are you doing on your goals? Basic check-in. Feedback, optional. Feedback is in the form of supportive feedback, not curing or fixing anybody. It's hey, I hear you, and what can I do to support you? And again, feedback optional. If Patrick just shared, and I have something to say to him, I'm gonna say, hey, Patrick, are you open to feedback today? And it's up to him to say, yes, I'm open to feedback, or today I just needed to rant. I really can't handle any feedback. And it's cool either way. And what happens in circle stays in circle. School for Recovery is broad name for other activities, other classes that go on at recovery cafes. Some things specifically recovery related, wellness recovery action plan, living well with a mental health diagnosis. But you also see here, a yoga class, an ukulele class, crafts, knitting. So some of it is what members will learn in a class, but it's also, as you see in the bottom center image there, it's being recognized for completing something. So many of our members have lived on the street, still live on the street. They've been in and out of prison. They've never been recognized or congratulated for doing anything, for completing anything. And so the recognition, being called up before their peers to get a certificate for completing a class is like so much for their self-esteem. It's amazing. So School for Recovery. And I know I'm rushing because I only have 15 minutes, but so here on this slide, what's on the left is kind of what's the basic core of what you'll find at each recovery cafe. There's a lot more going on as cafes grow. I mean, everything else that Haley mentioned, things like peer navigators and expungement projects, that things like that. But the core that you'll find at every recovery cafe is that healing community space, drug and alcohol free, you know, some level of food and beverage service. When Patrick saw when he visited us in Santa Cruz, I don't know if we had the kitchen up yet or if we were still serving peanut butter sandwiches. But when he got to Seattle, he saw a beautiful commercial kitchen putting out hot meals and really doing it all up great. But, so anything and everything in between, but some level of food and beverage for people to share a meal, get to know each other over a cup of coffee. The recovery circles, as I mentioned, that's like core, what everybody participates in. That it's that membership model. Again, membership, it's free. It's just there's a couple of simple agreements to participate in their circle, to be drug and alcohol free in the space. That's it. And to give back. So that's kind of the what. On the right, you see kind of the how. That's our guiding principles. And first is connecting with that divine love within ourselves and everybody. And we're not a religious program. Divine is not capitalized. Love is. It's we view it as that spark within each of us that's special and unique and positive, connecting with that within ourselves and others, showing respect, cultivating compassion, practice forgiveness, encourage growth, give back. Add that up together, that's what you have at the top there, the loving accountability, radical hospitality, and hopefully creating a more just world. I'm not looking at the clock, so you'll warn me if I'm already running out of time.
And don't worry about the time. Uh, we got a little extra
Okay.
time, so just keep going till you're
Keep
finished.
going.
This is such great stuff. Thank you.
Oh, okay. And again, I know I'm rushing and leaving things up, but
No
we'll get to the open question period
worries.
at the end and we'll catch up then. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, again, our definition of recovery is about choosing any path of change, growth, healing, anything that keeps, recovering from anything that keeps us from living from love and our truest self. Um, Multiple pathways. So, yeah, we are not specifically 12-step, but we are clearly compatible with 12-step. A lot of our members do AA, NA, CA, etc. We uh, also, so, and a lot of the cafes have a space for 12-step meetings. A lot of cafes also have space for and do classes in smart recovery, recovery dharma, uh, et cetera. The list goes on. So we're compatible and honor, multiple pathways. We do what we do, but we're not like saying there's no room for anything else because it's all needed. Everybody, we all have our own challenges and our own way of responding to them. And, you know, what works for you may not work for me. So, anything and everything needs to be offered. Um, we do the cafes, we view it as part of a recovery-oriented system of care. So what that means basically is we can't do everything for we can't do everything for our members. We can't be completely one-stop everything, but we can connect to the other areas of care, and that includes treatment. That includes education, that includes healthcare, that includes the court system, that includes, can I say education? I don't, it's all the different spokes of the wheel that, we're just one spoke and we make the connections with the others, housing, et cetera, and build partnerships so that, they can refer folks to the cafe, but we can also, connect our members out in the community to other resources. So important to be able to do that. We have data to show how effective we are. I've said loving accountability and living from love and love this and love that. Yeah, we also collect data to show that love works. There's some data behind it. There's some science behind it. Trauma-informed care and the dimensions of recovery as identified by SAMHSA. And I mean, there's all that. Some sample of the our from our surveying our members, that those who identified alcohol as their prime recovery challenge, 88% doing better. And you see on each of these, I'm not going to go through them all, but sample data, we do, have that covered. Okay, and I'm talking about everything, and I'm leaving out the human element. So just want to introduce you briefly to a couple of my friends from the San Jose Recovery Cafe, um, Tony and Alan, I'm not going to go through their whole stories, but each of them came to the cafe. Alan directly out of jail. Tony, living under a bridge. Um, and the cafe was how they, not only sustained their recovery as we talked about, but like I said, that fulfilling their potential, each of them becoming peer leaders. Tony, first becoming the lead barista and running the coffee bar and teaching other members how to make a great espresso or a latte. Alan becoming a circle facilitator. Tony's now on staff. She's not just a peer leader. She's staff. Alan running groups. And these are just a couple of the people who I'm so proud to call my friend and colleague. And those of you who want to read their stories, email me after. I'll send you the slides, and you can read these slides. You can read these posters that they've told their stories in. But that's like, I wish I could spend more time just talking all about showing you 100 of those images of members and their stories. Um, but back to the presentation, yeah. So, we have this model that's 65 plus cafes nationally, and we have, this is how you do it, and as the network, as Recovery Cafe Network, we provide a lot of training and support, and we teach people how to do this, how to run a cafe, how to build a cafe, how to run it. Um, that's our lane is the training, support, coaching, mentoring. But each of the recovery cafes is its own individual local nonprofit grassroots organization. So it kind of gets the best of both worlds, the national support and that comes out of the community. It wouldn't work if it were like a McDonald's franchise and everyone looked exactly the same. That would not work. And you kind of see that in the logos of different recovery cafes across the US, that it shows their local personality coming through, but with that training and support that they get from the group. Yeah, real quick, the core commitments. I mentioned that each individual cafe member has 3 agreements with their cafe. Each cafe has 6 commitments, 6 agreements with the network. So the first member agreement was to be drug and alcohol free when they're in the community space. Each cafe commits to creating healing community spaces that are drug and alcohol free. Each individual member, their agreement is to participate in their recovery circle on a weekly basis. Each cafe commits to creating circles of loving accountability and doing that. Each member, agrees to give back somehow. So each cafe commits to creating a culture of contribution. Out of that comes the fourth core commitment about raising up member leaders. Like I said, as much as possible, everything in recovery cafes are peer-led. It's got to be peer-led. It's not the professionals saying it is peer-led. Fifth is responsible stewardship, basically just being a good nonprofit, being responsive to donors and the IRS and et cetera, being a good, honest nonprofit. And sixth is around race and equity, which goes beyond simply hanging a sign saying all are welcome, regardless of race, religion, or background. It goes well beyond that to recognizing that since we talk so much about trauma, that a lot of the trauma our members comes from racism, sexism, homophobia, various class issues. I mean, that's the source of the trauma. So we have to commit to systems change. It goes beyond just hanging the welcome sign. But the network what we provide, the model, which we talked about briefly, cohort learning, how we train our new cafes, the affiliation with what's now a nationally known model movement, the hub and the agency database we provide, et cetera. I mean, I talk about that in detail some other time if you're interested. And if you're interested in learning more, our next launch, our next training for the cohort will be in the fall. The applications for that are actually due at the end of August. If you're interested, there's my email address, the website recoverycafenetwork.org, or if you quickly want to scan that QR code, you can have my digital business card and contact me. And I think, yeah, that's it.
So now our next guest is David. David from the Life Rooms in Liverpool. And I met David in London. Somebody sent me, we recently did a live conference in London, our group. And we had some donations of tickets to give away. And we were looking for people to send them to and get them along to find out about what they're doing, not only show them what we're doing, but to find out what they're doing. And that's how I met David, and he's doing incredible work there in Liverpool. And it's really interesting because he's at the intersection of the sort of establishment, there in the UK, the NHS, and this initiative that he's going to talk to us about. So that's what intrigues me about how you do that dance, David. So I'll let you tell us all about it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Thanks for having me. Really pleased to be here. I feel, in well-esteemed company, with Ken and Haley, and really inspired by what they've had to say so far, and lots in common with them in terms of what's going on currently and also my past, and I look forward to catching up with them as well about their projects and any way information can be shared and benefited from. So yeah, just thanks for all that. So Life Rooms. So at the moment, what that is, that's actually one of the newest branches of, for people who don't know what the NHS is, I'm sure everyone does, but just in case people don't, the National Health Service in the UK. Something that's been going around for about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years now. It's not rocket science, but they're treating it like it's a new thing. It's called social prescribing, which is, it's like, instead of going to the doctor and telling them what's wrong with you and then prescribing you medication, you go to somebody who's trained in a different way, who knows community assets and, hopefully has some lived experience, and you are prescribed the best thing in the form of, if it's financial help or benefits help that you need, practical stuff, you funneled off to the right area. Got the sirens going outside. But if it's mental health support or recovery, then hopefully the advisor can point you in the right direction too. So it's a person-centered service where you're prescribed things to do, or other people to see, or other organizations to go to help with where you're at, right now. And we do a lot of that in Life Rooms itself. We have whole timetables of all the same kind of stuff that Ken and Haley have already mentioned, but not so much recovery, but more in terms of mental health. So all the things that help with mental health, you know, we have an allotment and gardening, we have sessions understanding anxiety and depression, you know, we have all the creative stuff, all the mindfulness stuff, you know, all the exercise stuff, all of the things you could think of that help towards mental health, as well as having access to the rest of the city's resources. Now, I'll come back to life rooms in a minute. What I'll do is I'll explain, you know, like how I got into there, because that's a little bit more interesting in terms of the story of how I came to be there, and what the significance is of it, and what the new project is that I'm involved in, and what's happening with that. So my mid-20s, late 20s, you know, that's where everything went bust for me. You know, that was everything was broke, you know, and I had to sort of put my life together from the start again, you know. Um, and I feel, without even knowing what recovery was at the time, that was the start of my recovery journey, you know, say 15, 16 years ago, you know. So, you know, over a period, and that was during what I was doing a degree in English literature, and I was thinking I was in university to become a teacher, an English teacher. So I had this breakdown during that degree, and you know, towards the end, I realised I didn't want to be an English teacher, and I changed part of the degree to doing media and print journalism. And my final piece of work, the one that I put probably most of my time and effort into, was making a magazine about a local community recovery social enterprise called The Brink, which was the first of its kind in the UK, which was a recovery cafe in much the same vein as Ken and Haley's, but this was the first for the UK, you know. So I chose to write about that for my degree and interview all the staff and get to know the place. And so I got my degree, I had this magazine about The Brink, and I had to go back to the tax office where I'd been working just to make ends meet. But the job finally came up to be the, you know, events manager and activities coordinator at The Brink, which I put everything into and I got. And so my journey of working in recovery started, and I worked there for 7 years. But it wasn't just I was working there, you know, I was seeking my recovery there without realizing, you know, because there was a really strong recovery community at The Brink. And again, you know, as the guys have already mentioned, there was 12-step and other forms of recovery. You know, there's a daily service that still exists to this day for people accessing recovery. There's counselling there, and there was all the different events and activities which I was in charge of putting on. All, you know, helping the recovery community in Liverpool, a real, you know, bona fide grassroots. But it was in the middle of the city centre, in amongst all the other bars. But it was a brilliant venue. We served brilliant food. We had some of the best chefs, and it had a really good reputation, and it went strong. But I found while I was there that I was wanting to have the same kind of conversation as the people in recovery who worked there, but I didn't know what was wrong with me, because I didn't have specifically any kind of addiction with alcohol or drugs, but I found myself like more wanting to be with these people and talk with these people and sharing a lot in common with these people. And then about 5 years in, Coda had their annual conference at The Brink. And long story short, that's when I knew what it was, you know, what I'd been searching for, you know. So, you know, I've been in Coda since then. And I've done lots of other stuff, that, you know, the Buddhist groups, the mindfulness, you know, everything under the sun I've been involved in and still have a little go of. But, you know, I now know 12-step recovery from the ground up through my own recovery. So that was 7 great years. And then I left with my partner in 2020 to pursue a completely different life in a completely different place, which is a story and a topic for another time completely, which is, I'll just say, our employers were Lord and Lady Radnor at Salisbury Castle in southern England. And we were given a 4-bedroom cottage on site we didn't have to pay for to live in, and we were part of the maintenance team that was running the castle and the grounds, and it was going to be this dream thing where we got to save up a lot of money and do our thing. We landed the day before lockdown started in Britain, and let's just say, you know, that and a few other events meant that the whole project just, you know, excuse me French, fell on its ass in like, you know, 4 months. So we came back to Liverpool actually homeless, technically homeless and jobless. And I think after about a year and a half of walking dogs and making ends meet, I just, you know, I began the search, and I was like, I need to just get back into the health community somehow. You know, the health community. I'd been teaching meditation online, doing qigong, all this stuff. And I seen this job come up in the NHS, and of course I'm not qualified for the NHS, but this job come up to work for Life Rooms. But the specific job was what they were doing as a pilot, as the first time ever. They were going to move the social prescribing service for the first time into the Royal Liverpool Hospital and have it integrated with the alcohol care team. So basically, me providing that service, that designing the service, overseeing the service, and seeing all of the alcohol patients. So that was March 2022, you know, and it was only a year's contract. I've had, you know, an extension on that twice, so it's now in its third year. It's going really well, but we've got to secure more funding at March next year. But you know, the reason why this is significant as well is because, you know, you've got the story of how the health services are evolving in Liverpool in the UK, and it seems to be they've intuited that to help alcohol patients in a clinical setting, you've got to address all the other things as well, you know. And in the NHS's roundabout sort of way of understanding it, this is what they've put together. But the significance for me in my recovery and why this is working in the way that it is, my major resentment through all my recovery work, one of my major resentments was orthodox health and the NHS. You know, so this has actually been a story of me coming to terms as well with my resentments and attitude and judgments towards orthodox health, the establishment. And I've kind of had to say, okay, these are giving me a job in my time of desperate need. I'm going to trust them, you know. I'm going to treat them as a friend, you know. I'm going to work that part of myself out whilst working for them, you know. And so, you know, that's just led to a really, really interesting 2.5 years so far. You know, the people who've put the project together are wanting to roll it out, hopefully, to other alcohol services across the UK. You know, they think it's the only thing that's doing what it's doing. And hopefully, you know, that's something we can do. They're gathering all the data at the moment. What I'd say is, what's interesting is when I'm listening to Ken and Hayley speak, it's reminding me of the real rootsy aspect of recovery, you know, in the community. And, you know, it's making me think I want to go back there. You know, it's like, this is a good partnership. I won't say it any other way. This is health evolving in Liverpool, UK, but it does have, you know, it's like these two things have usually been in opposition to each other. The establishment and orthodox health and the science and the way they see addiction. And then there's community where it's happening on the ground. And, you know, let's just say we've got a little bit of both worlds going on at the moment. And that's good, you know, and as I say, it is a first. So what I'm trying to do, just me on my own, is I'm trying to, in the most non-forceful way as possible, educate clinical staff on what recovery is, how addiction shows up, the reasons why that's happening for people, you know, where recovery can be sought other than medication, which you know, that I mean, I've been exposed to presentations where they spend an hour saying, here's what's going on for the patient. If they tick all of these boxes and addiction is the thing, then, and then it's like question mark, then what? And my answer, of course, will be, well, they need recovery. But of course, their answer most of the time is, we've got 4 different types of anti-craving medication and blah, blah, blah. Now, that's not to say that that's not important at a certain stage, but, there's more than that. And I think everyone on this meeting would know that. But I've got to give them the due. They're trying. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there in a job. They've recognized it needs something different. So I'm trying to sort of slowly let them know what recovery is, where it can be sought, what things above and beyond medication is good for these people. And luckily, the NHS is a free service. It's funded by the taxpayers of the UK, and all the stuff that's offered in life rooms is free. But sometimes, a lot of the time, that's not what's needed. A lot of the time, people just need to be shown or need to know where the recovery is in the city, where the communities are. And because, I've spent time in the brink and, and in recovery groups, I can show them that. I spend actually a lot of my time demystifying and debunking the common tropes that still exist in the NHS about what an AA meeting is and why people use the word God and this kind of stuff, which is off-putting for lots of people that I speak to. So you could say I'm actually AA's biggest canvasser, which is quite funny. I share that joke with my AA friends. But yeah, it's interesting times. Hopefully things are changing. Hopefully the establishment are becoming more open-minded to the wider determinants of mental health / addiction. Hopefully they're starting to understand through me repeatedly saying it that, addiction is the same as anyone. Is it a behavior that is causing harm to yourself, and do you find it difficult to stop? Well, you're in the same boat as the people that you're treating. And I'm actually part of a script writing process at the moment. We're trying to make a short film on addiction, but the way we're spinning it is, the caretaker, of the addict. We're trying to make that look like, the person that the clinical staff relate to. And then we can see what's their compulsive behavior or what's their controlling behavior, and if they got anything in common with that. So yeah, so it's a good time for making friends with the NHS and utilising the resources and hopefully making some change. So there's my time, and thank you again for listening. I'm glad those of you that stuck around to do so.
That was great, David. I'm fascinated by, the NHS getting involved. I mean, traditionally, these infrastructures of medicine or they just don't have enough trained staff. I mean, they don't, or people who actually understand what addiction is and have done addiction studies. I mean, it tends to be an area that people in recovery get into and then set up these offshoot programs. But to see them coming together just makes so much sense. I mean, why not? I mean, I think probably the opioid crisis is a big driver in that direction here in the United States. But anyway, and people realize that we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem.